I
All
got to
right.
tell you, the Grimace story is going wild, but what people thought Grimace was, I frankly didn't see that coming. If you're really curious about what average America thinks Grimace was, please check out the comment section of our Instagram where we talked about the story. There's a consistent theme that came up, and no, it was not grape jelly. All right, let's get into the news. So, this is for all my married women out there who, might be having some questions about the legitimacy of their marriage. Well, I want to bring a story to light tonight. There is a dentist and a beautician who are now fighting over the deceased wealth of a bigamist. That's right. In the UK, there was a gentleman who was married to not one, but two women. He'd married them both in Vegas, 5 years apart from one another. Didn't really technically divorce the dentist before he married the beautician or vice versa, but one went marriage first, the second one got married second. The marriage was discovered after his parting. Now they're trying to fight over the wealth that was left behind. 2.4 million US dollars is not a bad amount of money to be trying to get your hands on. So these two poor ladies are going to have to figure out what this affair is going to look like. But of course, for dentists in the know, because a dentist is involved, we're always going to be here for you to let you know what's happening in the world of dentistry. It is quite dramatic on most days. I think this is pretty relevant for this evening's conversation. It was just yesterday that we learned of a pretty significant funding notification that went out to Trust AI. $6 million seed fund went to develop an AI assistant specifically to dentistry. Now, this niche market that's happening is really a very large AI market. We're very familiar with smaller groups like Pearl, Overjet, things that are very specific for dentistry and were designed very specifically for dentistry. But the large learning models are also very interested in healthcare and dentistry specific. So this funding is going into those large learning models to come into dentistry and do a couple different things. Definitely on the administrative side to handle some of the challenges that are happening on that end. I think they see how many software services and other things we're all having to deploy on a daily basis. So I think they're trying to focus their efforts on that. And then the third piece is an assistant called Isaac, who will be a treatment planning and diagnostician support service for clinicians. So as the model learns and gains information through both the questioning that's happening from the clinician as well as what it's learning in those large models, then they'll be able to support clinicians through the diagnostic process. Now, at the end of the day, they still have to do the dentistry. So if they come up with an amazing treatment plan, but the dentist is ill-equipped to perform it, that will be discussed at a later date. Maybe that's when old Elon's robot will come in to perform the dentistry. So here we go. Things are buckling up. It was funny. I had two patients yesterday alone say, I guess you don't have to worry about being displaced by AI. I think this story might shed some new light on that. All right, another interesting story. Guys, I really want to get behind this. Anytime a dentist wants to run for office for a US or local seat, I'm all in. Don't care the party affiliation. As my good friend Gary Oyster, who, if you have been in dental politics for even a fraction of a second, you know Dr. Oyster. He has been one of the most vocal dentists in our community. He spends so much of his own money towards the D party. No, that's not Democrat. That's dentist. He supports the dentist party. So he'll support libertarians, independents, Democrats, and Republicans as long as they support the profession of dentistry. We have a gentleman who is now running out of Ohio for a congressional seat. He is challenging an incumbent Democrat, U.S. Representative Greg Landsman. This is for Ohio's 1st district. His name is Dr. Stephen Airbeck. He is a Republican, and he is going to run for a U.S. congressional seat. I'm pumped. I want to know this guy. I want to hear his story. I want to hear his platform. He has specifically focused on public safety and support of law enforcement. So he's a fourth generation dentist. So I think that's something to be pretty proud of as well. So maybe we can get him on the show. Love to hear a little bit more about his campaign. A dentist and a wife were both jailed for stealing designer goods at an airport. Now, look, I'm sure we've all had our vices and our moments where we were lured into doing something we shouldn't have. But honestly, people, they did it in Singapore. Now, I can't think of a worse country to commit such a crime. Singapore has some of the most strictest laws. If you drop chewing gum on the street, you will go to jail. This couple made the unfortunate decision to steal a couple of things from Louis Vuitton and another store, ultimately got busted, and they did spend time in the Singapore jail. They are free, I believe, or should be soon because their sentences were fairly short, heading back to the US. But we do have a dentist who was caught in this little heist in Singapore. All right, the last one, and I'm sorry for the order of operations because usually I really do try to end at least on a funny note or a high note, but I got to be honest. I read this story in a couple different sources of news locations that I follow, and the theme was very consistent. I think we've all been pretty familiar that medical providers have been struggling for a while, and it really came to light in 2020. And what has happened since 2020 and the mental health and well-being of dentists, but medical professionals as a general rule has certainly been declining. Those of us who have chosen to stay in the field are getting beat up pretty good and paid a whole lot less. And those who are smart enough have left. And so a recent article that came out of the Journal of Psychiatric Research found that in the past year alone, more than 3% of healthcare workers have attempted suicide, and that's combined with 20% who have contemplated it. So we have to do something. This has to be a wake-up call. It has to be a wake-up call to everybody. It can't just be, oh, these individuals need more counseling. They need more psychiatric support. No, because there's a reason why they feel this way. There's a compression, a serious compression happening from insurance companies, from organized dentistry, from patients, consumer expectations, from the cost of doing dentistry, from the cost of hiring staff, from needing to be the CEO, CFO, CMO, CIO, CTO, and chief happiness officer of your office on every single day. And for many of us who really went into a profession to help are repeatedly told we're not doing enough. It's a big burden to bear. Dentistry is incredibly responsible to serve their people and to go out and find avenues that will make this profession more enjoyable for all, including the families who are related to these individuals who are struggling. If we don't, the profession will look very different in a few years. And I'm afraid we're going to lose a lot of people. I'm afraid it will be to suicide, but more importantly, good people are going to leave. They want more than that for themselves. They want more than that for their family. And with that, that's the news.